How do we teach our children about poverty and injustice without overwhelming them? As parents, we want our children to recognize the needs of others, grow in compassion, and become generous people. But conversations about hunger, poverty, human trafficking, and global inequality can feel heavy, especially when our children are young. Today, I am joined with Petra Kooman of Compassion International, and we talked about how parents can raise globally minded children in practical, age appropriate, and hopeful ways. She reminded me that cultivating compassion does not require completely restructuring family life. It begins with small, intentional choices, making room in our schedules to notice people, helping children connect with individual stories, praying together, giving away what we no longer need, and looking for simple opportunities to serve. Let's dive into today's conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Homeschool Feast podcast. I'm your host, Julie Ross, and I am here today with Petra Kooman from Compassion International. Hello, Petra. Thanks for coming on.
It's great to be here, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you today about raising generous and compassionate kids. But before we dive in, can you just talk a little bit about you and what kind of work that you're doing for them?
Yes, so I'm Petra. I have two kids, ages 6 and 9. The girl is 6, the boy is 9. My husband and I live in southwestern Ontario. We are about 45 minutes from the Michigan border. And I have been a supporter of Compassion for nearly 20 years. And I've been an employee with Compassion International for the last 3 years. So I work on our global public relations team, and I get the joy and the privilege of identifying stories that we think will connect with people and move the hearts of audiences to become more engaged with compassion. I think I've lived most of my life in storytelling mode. And so it's a gift to be in a role where that's what I get to do 90% of the time.
That's amazing. And part of what I do is getting really great books into children's hands because stories are what change the world and they are
I
what shape our
know.
character. And so it really
Yes.
aligns kind of with what you are talking about. And what a neat job to be able to go and listen to people's
I
stories
know.
and collect them. That's beautiful.
Oh, I'm grateful every single day. It's kind of still astounding that I get to do this and I get to call it a job.
Yeah.
And I that I get to make a livelihood from doing something that I'm passionate about. Julie, I don't know about you, but my report card every single year said talks too
Oh
much.
my gosh, mine too. Were we in the same class?
We were in the same class, but now we get to talk for a living, and what a gift.
I know it's right. I often
Yeah.
laugh about that. I'm like, oh, if my teachers could only see me now, I actually get paid to speak. So yeah,
I
thanks,
know.
guys.
Joke's on you.
Yes, right. And I keep that in mind too. And I tell my homeschool parents that because we can oftentimes go, okay, God, what is going on with this child? And it's
Uh,
often the things that maybe don't sit as well with us that God can use in amazing ways. So
yes.
just put that all in
Yes.
your back pocket there. But as we're talking about stories and some of the stories that you
Mm,
collect, I would love to
mm,
hear, we think about poverty and children who are hungry and human trafficking and the horrible things that are going on in the world. Like, how
mm,
can we let our children know what's happening in a way that isn't overwhelming and too much for them?
Yeah. Well, one of the gifts I think that a lot of your audience has by homeschooling your kids is that you get a really great sense of where they're at, what their level is, and what scope of an issue they can accurately absorb, right? And what they can
Mhm.
handle. And so there's like a sliding scale, I think, of how much of global poverty, of some of these really terrible ails of the world that we share with our kids. So my kids are 6 and 9. And so we kind of shape the story of, there's kids around the world that sometimes they don't know when they're going to eat next. Or some days they can't go to school because their mom and their dad can't afford to send them, right?
Mhm.
Those are some really accessible stories and realities that my kids can grasp
Mhm.
pretty quickly. Some of those bigger issues like human trafficking, that's not something that their developmental minds are prepared to absorb yet, but they can understand inequality and they can understand injustice when it's communicated in a really accessible and easy way. And so, they hear, wow, this child doesn't get to eat 3 meals a day, and sometimes this child goes to bed hungry. How can we help?
Mm.
right? Well, the child that we sponsor through Compassion lives in Brazil. And so we give $43 a month. And then as a result, he gets nutrition support. He gets monitored for malnutrition. We make sure that he gets education support, just a whole host of things that he doesn't have to worry about because we're able to support him in that way. As your kids get older, you expand that story, right? You expand it to include some of those structural injustice issues that might be impacting kids and communities around the world. And that's a really neat conversation as they age because then they become advocates for
Mm.
broad transformation. When your kids are young, making it a one-to-one story is really easy for them and they can grasp that.
Yeah, and definitely the work that compassion does in having the child that they're actually able to connect with a
Mhm.
face and a person
Yeah,
and a story
yeah,
and you know a place on
yes,
a map, even if they can't
yeah,
actually picture it in their own head. It makes it
exactly.
more real than just some arbitrary thing that
Mm,
and that's a beautiful gift that you all are doing. I think in terms of, okay, how do we raise kids who are globally minded? How
mm,
do we raise them to be generous? And
yeah,
generous isn't just financial. So,
no,
how have you seen in your own family or in other families, how,
mm,
like, what can generosity also encompass?
yeah. So generosity, we do. We default to thinking of it as money and giving in that way. And one reason why I do love working for Compassion is because you give $43 a month, but then there's also a generosity of prayer. There's a generosity of investment of time. You can write letters. That child writes you letters back. You can get to know them more personal. They share prayer requests. Their community leader shares prayer requests for their church. And so having margin in your day where you can engage in those kinds of things is one way that you can be generous. And then time and resources, right? I think for us as a family, we have had to intentionally create lives that have margin in them
Mm.
so that we can have, spontaneous generosity. We try to keep a bag of supplies in our car with us. And so if there is an unhoused individual at a stoplight, one of my kids can just reach back, grab a bottle of water, and one of us, an adult, will give it to that
Yeah.
that individual. And usually that's possible when we're not rushed.
Mm.
When we take the time to look around
Mm.
and see the world around us. And so I'm a big believer in the value of margin and time in your schedule that helps you be generous. Now, that hasn't always been a reality. I'm actually just coming out of a season that was incredibly intense and busy, but those are exceptions, I think, to the norm of how we want to structure our day-to-day life. They're not the norm. And then, I think they're hardwired for empathy, and I think they're hardwired for identifying injustice. Right? Kids have siblings, so they know
Yeah,
when
that's not
something
fair. No.
that's not fair, right? And so that's part of their God-given thing that I think the Holy Spirit has given them. And so it's up to us as parents to then nurture that, right? What does empathy look like then? Well, we can ask. Even sometimes I'll say, when my kids are fighting with each other, I'll ask them to pause and say, how do you think that person, how do you think your sister or your brother feels right now when you say something like that? Starting young with identifying empathy, I think that then breeds generosity in them because they can identify with another person and they want to see that person's life improved, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And
Right.
then that desire for justice, right? My daughter, since she could speak, she would ask, why doesn't this person have a home? Why doesn't that little boy have enough food to eat? Why? And that is her desire for justice
Mm.
coming out. That's her desire to see the world made right. And so we have conversations with them and we try not to overwhelm them,
Right.
but we say, okay, this is off kilter. This isn't right. We want to see this fixed. What's one small thing we can do to change that?
Yeah. So
Hmm.
when I think about generosity, sometimes it can be hard in our current culture where the
Hmm.
focus really is on accumulating more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how have you navigated that and how do those kind of go hand in hand?
That is, I would say I'm probably part of the norm. So we have lots of family members who love to give gifts. And and guess what? Kids love to receive
Yeah.
gifts. That's a joy for them too. And so that's something that we're continually evolving in as a family. And so we do try to consistently give things away, especially when they've outgrown them, right? Trying to find a new home for a book, for a toy. And if they know who it's going toward, if they know the second life that item is going to have, it's a lot easier for them to
Yeah.
let it go, right? So most of my daughter's clothes we give to another family when she's outgrown them. And guess what? We see that family on an ongoing basis. So it's such a joy to her to
Mm.
see one of those little girls wear a dress,
Yeah.
and that undoubtedly sparks the conversation of being good stewards of the earth
Hmm.
and wanting to take care of the earth and not accumulating beyond what we need because that's not good stewardship of the resources. And a dress that my daughter has outgrown, which she won't even wear dresses anymore, for the
Yeah.
record.
It goes in phases. It'll come back. Trust me.
Oh,
I have four daughters.
which
It'll come back.
I needed to come back, Julie, because the girl's got some cute things she could wear.
It might be a while.
She's all into jumpers right now. But anyway, that dress that doesn't fit her does her no good hanging on a hanger in her closet, but it
Mhm.
does a world of good by passing it along to someone else who can use it and give it longevity and
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that they can see that it's not just time to clean
Hmm.
out your room and we're just gonna give this bag, trash bag, who
Right?
knows where.
Yeah, and I would say, every once in a while you have to just, you don't have a home, you don't have a new home for these things to go.
Right.
So it does go to we do try to give it to, we have an organization here, it's called Mission Thrift. And so if we don't have an identified person in mind that we can give this thing to, we've given it to Mission Thrift in the past, which uses all the proceeds from things that you've donated to buy Bibles
Oh,
and
wow.
give them to
Yeah.
people who don't have access to Bibles. So I took the kids in. We talked to one of the cashiers. We asked, where do these Bibles go? Right? I wanted them to feel intimately connected
Hmm.
to what they were giving and what the outcome would be.
Yeah. I love too that you talk about prayer being generosity.
Yeah.
That is not maybe something we necessarily think of, but it is definitely a time that we're
Yeah.
giving, but then
Mhm.
also just the attention to someone else and bringing their
Mhm.
needs before the Lord. That is a
I
very
know.
beautiful way to be
Yeah.
generous. So, are there specific things that you recommend children pray for or think about in terms of poverty and being compassionate
Mhm.
globally
Yeah.
with what they're
Yeah.
praying?
Wow. Hmm. What a great question. I think to back it up a second, one of the things that we do try to guard for our kids is that they don't feel overwhelmed,
Yeah.
right? Especially one of my kids can feel really burdened if I don't guard that, and that
Yep.
child can then feel like they have to fix the whole world.
Yes, right.
Nothing is fair, nothing is right, and now it's my responsibility to fix it.
Mm,
And so one of the things that we're doing with this child is saying, let's give that to the Lord, right? This burden that we have for poverty, the Lord cares even more.
mm,
And so, we're gonna pray, Lord, let your righteousness reign. Lord, let those who have need encounter your goodness and your mercy. Let them, those who are calling out for help, let them receive. And then as those kids go to bed, now we have to say to them, and tonight we're gonna let God, who is bigger than any of us, carry that on our behalf, right? Because we don't have to. we are small, right? So we're gonna do our little part. We're gonna pray for the child that we sponsor in Brazil because we know that child's needs. We're gonna pray for that man that we saw at the stoplight the other day. We're gonna pray for him to get all the help that he needs and that the Lord would be near to him,
Hmm.
right? And that big, huge question of poverty, we're going to do what we can. Then we're going to ask God to be the transforming hands and feet with it.
Yeah.
As a side note, I will say one of the reasons why I really wanted to join Compassion is because everything that they do is through the local church. And so that church is embedded in the community. That church knows the needs of the community. That church knows the kids in the program, right? It is intimately familiar with the work and the support that needs to happen there. And that has felt so incredible, right? To see that grassroots response happen.
Yeah.
And that church was there before Compassion came, and that church is going to be there long after to reach a community and to see it transformed.
Yeah. And I think that helps too with like you were talking about your daughter going like, why?
Oh,
And that's
yeah,
just kids are going to ask the big questions, right? Like,
they
why
are.
didn't God just stop this? Why does God let this happen? Why
I
do they
know.
have so little when we have so much? I mean, they're
Oh,
going
I
to
know.
ask that. But I
I
think
know.
your answer
Mhm.
of let's give this over to God, because I think parents can sometimes feel like they have to know the answer. Let me
I
give you a
know.
theological treatise on poverty and God's
Right?
will, and
Right.
that's just going to go way over their heads.
And it goes way over my head, Julie,
Yeah,
because
right.
even I ask, why? Why, God, why? And especially when I was in my early 20s, I struggled with that.
Hmm.
Why, oh God? But all I can do is respond what's within my hands and my heart and in my control, right? And then beyond that, I have to give it up to God and admit I'm so small.
Hmm.
You are so big. Please carry it.
Yeah. Now, have you gone to travel with compassion or taken your kids or
I
anything like
have.
that?
So I'm not taking the kids yet. It is a hope. We'd like to probably in 2 years from now. I think my daughter's probably still a little too young to fully appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I came back from Bolivia in April, which was amazing. Spent about 8 days in country with a church group that had invested pretty intentionally and deeply in a church community, in two church communities actually in Bolivia. And then that group also got to meet many of the children that they sponsor and spend time with them, pray for them, meet their families, meet their parents. And just these parents, they want the best for their kid
Mm.
and they want to see their child thrive just like us. And so someone visits there and can sit with that parent and say, I'm cheering you on. I'm here for you. We want to see your kid thrive too. What an incredible thing. What a blessing
Yeah.
to be able to draw near and show Christian love to
Mm.
our brothers and sisters around the world.
Yeah, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
What do you see as the value of traveling internationally, whether it's just travel
Mm,
or it's a mission work or either,
mm.
as a family or on your own or as they get older, taking them on something like that?
Oh, Julie, I could run a whole podcast on this topic. I'm so passionate about this topic. My husband and I actually just celebrated a wedding anniversary and we rewatched our wedding video. And in it, I said, we better travel. You
You're
know,
like, okay.
let's get going. No, I think it's so important to give your kids roots and wings,
Yeah,
right? So the rootedness that we give them is in that, in the rhythm, in the reliability, in the safety, in those day-to-day routines that we have as a family. But I really want to guard that routines never become rigid,
right,
or that it
absolutely.
becomes suffocating. And that's why travel is so incredible, right? Travel breaks you out of the safety that you've created for yourself and the some of the fallacies that you set up for yourself, that my world is only this big and I'm the only one that matters
Mhm.
within it, right? When you can blow the walls off that and show your kids a different culture, different people, different experiences, making them navigate, things that aren't convenient or easy, like the food that you don't have at home that you might not like here, but
Mhm.
this is what we have. And so I want to invite you to see what you can appreciate
Yeah.
with this food. Or you might not understand this person when you're in a different country, but they have so many of the same hopes and desires and dreams that you do. And so travel really, I think, takes some of the scales off our eyes and it forces us to see other people. And then it also forces us to be adaptable, right? One thing I want my kids to know is that they can be resourceful and adaptable. And that if there's a problem, that 9 times out of 10, it's fixable, right?
Absolutely.
That flight's delayed. They lost our luggage, right?
I just got back from England with my daughters. I'm just laughing because I'm like, oh,
You
this is
know,
exactly our experience.
it's really good to be a little bit
Oh
uncomfortable
yeah, absolutely.
sometimes. And I don't like it. I have memory foam on my bed. I really care about creature comforts, but it's good for me. It's good
Mhm.
for me to be uncomfortable because I get muscles and I get stretched and
Mm.
I get stronger as a result, and my empathy grows.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's really hard to duplicate that really any other way, I think.
I don't know that you can. I love investing in our community. I love having a home life that's beautiful and safe and thriving, but it's not going to give me some of the discomfort and some of the stretching experiences that I need and that my
Hmm.
kids need in order to be globally minded, in
Yeah,
order to know that there's a world out there and that they're not the center of the universe.
right. Yes, it's a very important lesson, but sometimes
It's
hard
a
to be.
Well, it's a huge lesson, I think, especially in the age of social media, where
Mhm.
everyone is their own platform
Right.
and everyone curates things to be a certain way, and where all eyes are on them. I don't want that,
Mm.
right? We're not the center of our universe. We're part of a beautiful, integrated ecosystem of humanity.
Yeah.
And our thriving is to benefit other people's thriving.
Yeah. What about in your local community or town for people who can't always travel, right?
Yeah, because we've
We
had
are,
seasons where we can't.
especially when you have a lot of little people, that's just not feasible.
No, it wasn't at all.
I know people who do it, and I think they're amazing because I could not take that many strollers and car seats and things to an airport. But
Me either.
what would you say to those people? Because I really feel like there is
Mm,
huge opportunity everywhere
yeah.
in this country and in Canada
Oh,
too.
yeah. Yes, absolutely. Even it doesn't have to cost a lot, right? Like a road trip to a different town for a day is
Hmm.
enough to kind of to break you out of the the confines of your own world, right?
Hmm.
Going to a restaurant that serves different food and maybe is owned by someone who's new to this country,
Hmm.
right? And it forces you to kind of realize what a tapestry of life there is out
Yeah.
there. And so I'm a big believer in adventure, but I don't think life lends itself to big adventures every day or every year necessarily. And so, what are some of the ways that we can infuse adventure and
Hmm.
then an exposure to a global mindset into our day to day? And so that's one of them. The other one, which has been such a gift, is that our church is quite diverse, and we've been really gifted in that way. Our pastor actually encouraged us to pray nearly 10 years ago that we would have a church that was representative of every tribe, every tongue, every nation.
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen. And that's been so incredible too for our kids to see such a diversity in the family of God. And so every Sunday, they're seeing that.
That's beautiful. So I'm thinking of the mom who's like, yes, I want my kids to have empathy and compassion and be globally minded, but I already have 75 million things on my plate
I know.
and I
I
don't know how to start. What would you say?
Yeah. Well, first, I know. Honestly, I'd say don't overcomplicate it, right? We're in this parenting thing. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so I'd say pick one thing, right? What's one way you can talk to your kid about empathy? What's one 5-minute thing you can do today that helps your child see a bigger world or a bigger picture? Do not overcomplicate it, right? For us, dinner is a mainstay in our house. We try to have dinner together almost every night. Not always achievable. Wednesdays are crazy.
Yeah.
But, so how do we introduce a conversation at the dinner table on
Mm,
this topic, right? Like I was mentioning, can you put a crate of water in your car and just say, hey, I'm going to give out a water to someone who might need it
mm,
today. And if we do that, if the adult hands the water, we're going to talk to our kids about why.
mhm.
What does that look like? And so I'm a big believer in living out of your values, but there's so much life that
Mm,
happens in the midst of it that you've got to pick the achievable things that
absolutely.
help you live out your values.
Yeah. Yeah. And why is this important? Why is it important that we raise kids who are generous with their time and their resources and
Mm.
have compassion for the poor and the sick in the world?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Well, first off, it's for their good, right? I think life is pretty lonely on an island. And if they become focused only on themselves, they're going to come up at the end of their life
Yeah.
and they're going to realize I really shortchanged myself,
Mm,
right? Life is better when it's lived in service of others or out of service
yeah.
for others. That's when you look at most of the research, that's what people say the second half of life gives them the most value, right? And so if we want to give our kids a rich life, if we want to give our kids an abundant life, then generosity and empathy are going to be critical components of that. And then the other part is that it's close to the heart of God,
Yeah.
right? He said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So if that's a commandment, we're going to do that, right? We're going to try to see people the way that God sees them, see people the way that he loves them. And if he wants us to love other people, that means that we have empathy for them. That means that we're generous toward them. One thing that I didn't say earlier is that generosity so often is also walking in forgiveness,
Mm,
believing the best of someone, giving someone space to be fully themselves.
well,
That's probably one of the most generous things that we can do in life. And that's because God has done that for us, right? He's created us to be fearfully and wonderfully made with all of our quirks and with all of our uniqueness. And so we need to be able to do that for other people too.
yeah. No, that's great. And I think it's important to see the vision in that and not just see it as one more task or one more thing that we need to do in our
We
parenting,
can.
that this really
Yeah.
is the heart of God and it really is who we're shaping a character of a person
Yeah.
to become, but not in a I have to revamp our whole entire life.
You
But
can. You can't. It's not
yeah,
possible, right?
right.
Because that kid still has to learn math. And, maybe that kid plays travel ball and you're gone every single weekend. Or, I don't know how people have set up their own
Yeah,
lives, but start with looking for the little opportunities.
yeah,
Start with looking for those simple things. I'd
yeah.
be remiss to say, look at sponsoring a child,
Well, I
right?
was
And
just going to say
being,
that too. You must have read
yeah.
my mind, right? Because it can't get more simple than the beautiful way that you have that all put together. So can you just tell parents a little bit about how that works?
Yeah. So go to compassion.com. I would say there's a child that you can choose to sponsor. Some kids have been waiting a really long time. And that's because once a child's admitted into the program, they're admitted into the program. Whether they have a sponsor or not, They will be in that program until they complete it. But those kids love having someone who prays for them, who supports them, who writes them letters, and your kids will be transformed as well. So go to the website, compassion.com. It's right there on our homepage. Sponsor a child. And then for $43 a month, you're going to be able to have a relationship with a child halfway around the world who gets to encounter the love of God because of your support and because you've chosen to draw near.
Yeah.
And your family will be transformed too.
Yeah. You talk about how you collect stories.
Mhm.
And so I would love to end our conversation with, can you think of a particular story that you would like to share with my audience
Mm,
about the work and the transformation that happens when someone does sponsor someone?
yeah, my heart is always moved by the moms in the program,
Mm,
right? These moms who are just desperate and they want their children to have a better life. And how amazing that compassion can do that. And so one story that's always stood out to me is a story out of one of our African countries where we serve, where this mother gave birth to triplets. And
wow.
yes,
Wow.
right. So can you
Yeah.
imagine,
No,
giving birth to
no.
triplets?
Here, I
Um,
can't imagine giving birth here.
no,
Yeah.
but in a community
Yeah.
where you
Wow.
already don't have a lot, but in that particular community, there's a stigma
Mm,
against triplets. And so her husband left her.
wow.
Her entire family abandoned her. And so she was just desperate. She had nowhere to go. And she just sat down in a field in despair and said, God, I have nothing. I do not know where else to go. And one of the people who volunteered for a compassion center heard her crying in the field with her three babies. And that person went over and asked, what's going on? She heard her story. She rallied that church community. They got registered into the program. That church community made sure she had a home to live in with a roof. Because of the high stigma associated with triplets, she was in a pretty threatening situation as well with her in-law family. And so they also made sure she was safe, right? She lived somewhere that they didn't know where she was located. And so, what a beautiful story, right? That a community, a church community is coming around this mom, these three triplets, these three children
Yeah.
are now enrolled in a compassion program and they're thriving. So they're 8 years old now.
Oh my gosh.
They're doing so well in school, right? They are nourished. They are encountering the love of God, right? Because someone drew near and someone said, I'm going to sponsor, I'm going to make sure those kids have an opportunity to thrive. And now they are.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. That's an
Yeah.
amazing story. You think stuff like that still doesn't happen? I'm trying to think of, there's one
Yeah.
missionary biography I read to my kids, and it was about twins, but similar situation of
Yeah.
the stigma of twins. I think it was Gladys Hour, maybe. I don't know. But
Mm.
like, it's still so mind-blowing that stuff like that happens. And just,
I know.
I feel you with the heart for the moms and the way that a lot of
Oh,
women in this world are treated. It's horrific.
right?
And so, yes, by helping the children, we're definitely helping the mom. Because as moms,
We are.
we both
Yeah.
know that we would do anything for our children. Right,
Anything.
right.
Anything. And we do have a nurturers program.
A what?
That we do have a nurturers program at
Uh-huh.
Compassion as well.
What's that?
So when a mom is pregnant,
Oh, I didn't know
she'll
that.
get, it's
Okay.
a really exciting program. So she'll get prenatal care. She'll get educational courses on how to, sometimes set up a business so that she can support her baby, how to take care of her baby. And then through that first year of life, before a child can enter the official compassion program,
Hmm.
they'll be in the nurturers program. So they'll get those
Oh,
prenatal and postnatal checkups. The child will get a well baby checkup. Is this child thriving? Some of those markers,
yeah. Oh,
which
that's
is
so cool.
also really incredible.
Oh, that's huge because yeah, that sets you up
Huge
for everything that first year.
for
Yeah.
success. Well, one
Yeah.
of my favorite quotes is the years before five last the rest of their lives,
Mm.
right? And so if you're investing in those kids and the mom,
Hmm.
In those early years, they're going to thrive into their later years too.
Yeah, yeah, that's so important to get all
It
that
is.
nutrition and medicine and things. I didn't know you all had that. That's really cool. Is that on Compassion's page or is there a separate link for that?
I will send you a link
Okay,
for
we'll
it.
put it in the show notes.
It's on, yeah, it's on Compassion's page, but I will send you the direct link to sponsorship and to the Nurturers link as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. It was just so good to talk to you. And yeah, it's such a hard thing to think about, but
Yeah,
so important and so
it is.
important to be honest
Mm,
with our kids and showing them a different side of the world than the one that they might live in
yeah.
and the one that becomes all encompassing around them. I
Mm.
will definitely put all of
Yes.
that in the show notes and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. Let's wrap up with some key takeaways. Number one, begin with age appropriate personal stories. Young children do not need to understand every complex cause of global poverty. They can begin by understanding simple realities that some children don't know when they'll eat next, some families can't afford school, some people do not have safe homes. Instead of presenting poverty as a large, abstract problem, you can help children connect with the story of one real person. A name, a face, a family, a country, a place on a map can make children more compassionate. Number two, generosity includes more than money. Financial giving is one expression of generosity, but Petra encouraged families to think more broadly. Children can be generous with their time, their prayers, their attention. They can offer forgiveness, hospitality. Generosity may look like writing a letter to a sponsored child, praying for a family, passing clothing on to someone who can use it, keeping water in your cart for someone in need, or giving another person room to be fully themselves. Number three, margin helps family notice opportunities to serve. It's difficult to notice the needs around us when every moment of our day feels rushed. Petra explained that her family tries to create enough margin in their schedule to allow for spontaneous generosity. When families have space to slow down, children can observe the people around them and respond with compassion. Not every season of life feels spacious, but busyness does not have to become the permanent structure of your family's life. Number four, children should not feel responsible for fixing the world. Some children are especially sensitive to suffering and injustice. When they hear about poverty, they may begin to feel like it is their personal responsibility to solve every problem. Parents can acknowledge that something is wrong while reminding children that God cares even more deeply than they do. And last but not least, global awareness can grow through ordinary family life. International travel can broaden a child's perspective, develop adaptability, and help children recognize that their own way of life isn't the only way to live. However, families do not need to travel across the world to raise globally minded children. Parents can visit a nearby town, try food from another culture, develop relationships with people from different backgrounds, attend a diverse church, read stories from around the world, or sponsor a child. The goal is not to add another complicated subject to your homeschool schedule. It is to help children understand that they are part of a beautiful, interconnected human family and that their lives can contribute and help the lives of others. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. Check out the show notes if you are interested in sponsoring a child. Thanks for listening.